All right, this is Gavin F. Haley with the Apex Guitar Institute. How are you supposed to figure out what you're supposed to be practicing? Let me just start with this. You can get better at anything that you're working on as long as you're going slow enough. However, practicing one single thing for 3 years on end is probably going to be pretty demotivating. So is there a way to dig in a little bit on what you're working on and find something that's going to get you a good amount of progress in as little time as possible? Well, it just so happens there is. I talked a short while ago about how whenever you're practicing, you need to make sure that you practice how you want to perform. You want to make sure that you're practicing slow enough as to kind of minimize the errors. But there's more to it than that. Why is it that if you've been playing for 3 or 4 years and you go to practice Mary Had a Little Lamb, that you're not going to get any improvements at all from that? Naturally, it's because you're trying to work on something that you can already do proficiently. So how do we reconcile these two concepts? Well, relatively simple. You have to work on something that's ever so slightly above your skill level and not trying to tackle something that's so difficult that you feel overwhelmed and frustrated. So there's what I think is a pretty good rule of thumb, which is whatever that you're working on, you want to be able to get through it at a relatively comfortable pace, 10 times or so, making roughly 2 or less mistakes. So I can hear people out there right now. Last time you said that you don't want to mess up. You want to practice how you perform. In fact, I said it this time. That's true. You do want to minimize the mistakes that you're making. However, if you're not making any mistakes at all, you're likely working on something that's too easy. Now, finding something to practice at that perfect line of skill is probably relatively simple. But there's something that we can add in that makes it even better. Let's say you've just gotten really comfortable with some song that you're working on, and then you have a large selection that kind of fit this criteria. What else can you use? Well, a good way to keep on the up and up and stay motivated is whatever next piece that you're going to that's at that right skill level, also use one that's only introducing 1 or 2 new skills. That way, whenever you're looking at whatever that new material is, you only have 1 or 2 things that you really have to drill down on, the brand new things. Beyond that, the rest of the time is spent learning everything around it, the rest of the song that's not necessarily new for you, and it makes you spend a little bit of time just doubling down on the things that you already know, because you don't want to neglect other skills that you've learned either. Not to mention, tackling only 1 or 2 things at a time means you can make much faster progress on those 2 things. You're not spread too thin. I've found I make a lot of progress by using those 2 criteria whenever I'm deciding what I want to work on for maybe a month or so. Right skill level for the piece, where it's not too tricky, it's not too easy, but also one that's only introducing just a couple new things that I have to work on. Work on heavily, I mean. So with that in mind, you can probably think of a few things that you could work on, or at least to test out to see if they fit that criteria, and you can kind of start making progress on your own, even if you're not 100% sure where you want to end up. Now, if you do want to supercharge things even further, I do teach in Southeast Texas in the Beaumont area, so you can get in touch with me. I'll have the link down below. By all means, hit me up. The first lesson is free. We can take a look at where you're at, and even if you don't want to sign up to continue, that's fine. I can kind of put together things that you want to look for in your playing currently and kind of build a semi-plan about the things that you might want to tackle on the way to wherever it is that you're trying to get to with your playing. So until next time, play loud, be heard, and I'll see you on the next one.